All right, here we go. It's going to be a quick video explanation about how we get some of the microbes within our compost teas to flow freely through our spray equipment. And in particular, I want to talk about a delivery system that I like to use, which involves a 4-gallon pressure diaphragm pump pressure spray tank. You can see it right here over my right shoulder. This one right here is actually, quite ironically, it's made by the people at Roundup, but we don't use Roundup in it. But we do use the tool because it's still a viable tool to use. And this type, more often than not, comes with a filter that's right here inside the handle. And what I'm going to do is, I got a couple parts to show you. I'm going to show you that this filter right here is actually inside this handle. Well, if I leave this filter in, as you can see, it's pretty fine. It's going to trap all kinds of microbes, fungi, and other things that will develop inside your compost teas. It's going to trap it here, and it's going to reduce the efficiency at the spray tip. So for my spray tips, what I like to use is, I like to use these guys right here. Let's see if I can pop it apart and show it. It's this little tiny little spray emitter. Okay, and if you look through the center, there's a hole. This particular hole in the center of this is large enough to allow a lot of the fungi to pass right through. Especially if you're brewing these high fungal mass teas because it happens to be, fall or winter, and that's just a great time to do it. If they're a long run, you're going to get a lot more fungal growth in them, a lot more development in there, and it's going to it's going to clog up your spray nozzles. The other type of spray nozzle, let's see if I can find it. I think I dropped it. The other type of spray nozzle that I want to talk about is this guy right here. And this is a cross tip nozzle and sprayer that's adjustable. I refer to it as a cross tip because when you take the nozzle off completely, there's a small hole in the nozzle. You can probably see the light through it. And then there's a crossways hole through this. That hole right there is often too small to allow things like fungi to come through. The stuff in compost tea, it's organic matter, it's growing, it's alive, and we want it to flow out of these tips as easily as we can. So what I do is I take a small drill bit like this, and I'll actually insert it in there and just work it through to enlarge this hole through the other side. Once it's all the way through the other side, you can kind of clear it out, and then make sure that this hole right here is a similar size. Usually, if it's a little bit smaller, it's okay, but we don't want it to be too much smaller, otherwise the tip's going to get clogged more often than not. So if you find yourself with a clogged tip, then by all means, use some of these techniques to improve the application and flow rate of your compost teas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you one step further, and I'm going to show you really another way that I like to do it, where we actually strain out the media before it goes into the pressure tank sprayer, and that allows us to have smaller particulate matter within the compost tea, and it right out of the gate, things like this, and using things like this, and removing things like this from inside the handle and from inside the pickup tube that's in the tank, are going to get the system to flow a whole lot freer, and that's what we want. We really don't want the media to have a hard time getting out. All right, so let's go ahead and we'll have a look at what the strainer system looks like. That particular method is very, very simple. I do it all the time. We're going to go outside. This right here is one of my go-to methods I like to use. It basically just involves a small container and then a filter bag inside. The filter bag, independent of it, looks like this. Okay, we'll try to keep them clean once we're done using them. There'll be some media that's left in it. We'll just flip that back into the compost tea. All right, so we'll grab this, and we can take it with us to the compost tea. It's really kind of simple. Compost tea is brewing. Got a nice bit of chocolate colored compost tea. And all I'm going to do is, it's not full to the top, so I can actually use this container. Submerging it part way. I can rest it right there. Actually, we're just going to remove the bag. It's that simple. This can get placed on the ground where it'll be fine. And that amount of compost tea is more than enough compost tea to do what I need to do with it. So I'm basically just going to flip this stuff out, let it end up back inside there. There's some comfrey leaves in there. Plenty of good biomass from our compost itself. And that's pretty much it, okay? Do the same thing if this was from our Jadam liquid fertilizer container. We would basically do the same thing, so that we're using this here media cloth, make sure you can see it, to filter out any of the larger debris. Then what's left over in here is going to spray just fine. Now we'll just set it over here and rinse it out. There's nothing in this compost tea that's going to make anybody ill, as far as I know. I've been using it and making it the same way for years and years and years. All it does is induce health into my plants. That's very basically the only side effect that I've ever seen, is that it makes my plants healthy. So, I don't know. For those of you that make compost tea, and if you're making it aerobically and it really, really smells bad, something's probably wrong with the system you're using. You know, hit me up. Let's reevaluate. Let's see if we can do things to improve that. My compost tea has kind of a sweet, earthy smell to it. It really is that simple.